up. My stomach is tight. Let's go. Mickey D's. You got it. You got it, Mickey D's.
I used to work at a McDonald's many years ago.
Right.
Mostly I was a cashier and I take people's orders. I often worked at night and there would sometimes be some pretty late nights. Back then, the McDonald's that I worked at was open until 2 o'clock in the morning. Things would typically quiet down significantly from about 8 p.m. to the rest of the night. The last few hours would generally be very slow. Sometimes on weekends or other random nights it would get busy, but generally it was pretty quiet. So one night I remember that I was working until 2 a.m.
Yeah, when it's quiet like that, when it's slow like that, when it's not busy like that, is when you need to be on the most highest of alerts.
Yeah. I can't remember what time it was exactly, but probably at about 10 o'clock, it became just me and one other coworker.
That's it?
It was a girl named Gloria, who I was friends with, and she was around my age, but had worked there a lot longer than me. She was a manager now and did whatever was needed, really. At this point, I was taking orders and she was doing all the cooking. It was just us two until close. We got a few customers here and there, and it was really pretty quiet. Soon, midnight rolled around. I remember that I was out by the register standing there and just hanging out. I happened to notice someone was outside in the parking lot though. It was a man, and he looked in on the large windows that we had. He was just standing there, not moving, but appeared to be looking at me.
I have a question. Because so much cluck shit happens at McDonald's, are McDonald's windows regular windows? Like regular glass? Or is it like I don't know, like a gorilla, how you say it? Gorilla? Wow, I cannot. Gorilla. There we go. Gorilla. You know what I'm about to say? Glorilla. Gorilla. Or like, what's it called? Pixie glass? Or Pexi glass? Is it regular glass? I might look that up. I just thought about that.
Maybe it was partly because it was midnight and very quiet, but the sight of him instantly gave me the creeps. He had long hair, I remember, and a beard as well. He looked to be maybe in his 30s or so. I was sort of confused as to what he was doing and thought that maybe he would come inside. To be honest though, I didn't want him to. The man continued to stand there and stare at me. After like 30 seconds of this, I got too uncomfortable and I walked into the back. I went over to Gloria, who was bored with nothing to do because there were no customers. She was watching this mounted TV that was in the corner of the kitchen, so I joined her for a minute or two. Then I went back out to the front and I looked out of the window and the man was gone. I was glad to see that. So a while later, maybe an hour, I believe was the next customer to come inside. I helped them and I remembered that I gave them their food and they went to leave. It was then that I noticed the guy was outside of the window again. He was standing there and looking at me once more. I was surprised that he was back, and once more I did not want him to come inside, and he still didn't. After like a minute, I went to the back to tell Gloria about the guy, and when we came back, he was gone. I was a tiny bit disappointed because I wanted Gloria to see the strange man, but I was also glad that he was gone because I had been nervous that he was going to come inside. He just seemed really sketchy for some reason. So for the final hour of us being open, we didn't get any customers and I didn't see the guy. At 2 a.m. we locked up and several minutes later I was ready to leave.
Okay.
Because Gloria was the manager, she was going to stay back for a few minutes and finish up some other stuff.
What? No. Leave out with Gloria. Leave out with Gloria. Walk out in twos. I know you still feel uneasy right now, so leave out with Gloria.
I was tired from work and excited to go home and sleep, so I went to the door. When I did though, I was afraid that the man was going to be out in the parking lot somewhere. I didn't see him, but I was still worried, So after I went outside, I just sprinted to my car, which was not that far away. Then I got inside and I started the engine. It was at that time when I looked out of the window and I saw the man standing on the other side of the parking lot a ways away.
Jeez.
I was afraid that he might approach me or something, so I quickly drove away and left. By the next time that I worked, I had mostly forgotten about the man. Now, I believe it was like a week later, or maybe 2 weeks later. It was basically the same setup as before, which was fairly common. It was a quiet night at about midnight. Me and Gloria were the only two people working once again. So I recall that at some point a little after midnight, I saw the man again and I instantly remembered him. He was doing pretty much the same thing of just standing there outside and staring at me. But this time, after like 30 seconds, I saw him turn and walk away. I didn't know who this guy was or what he was doing. The way he would just stand there and stare at me was very creepy though. So I didn't see him after that for the rest of the time that we were open. At 2 a.m. we locked the doors. Soon after, I went to leave. This time though, before I left McDonald's, I noticed that the man was in the parking lot and he was standing right behind my car. I would have to walk right past him to go to my car and he was also staring at me.
Oh, God.
I went to Gloria to show her the guy. When she came back, she saw that the guy was still there. He was just standing there and staring at us both now. I wanted to leave, but I did not want to walk past him. After about a minute, we opened up the door and asked the man to please leave the property. When we said this, he did not leave, but instead he started walking in our direction.
Bet! Call the cops.
We quickly closed the doors again, which would automatically lock now. The man reached the doors and...
So technically, he's on McDonald's property. And y'all are, y'all in a clucked up situation. You know what that means? Y'all can cluck him up without no repercussions.
Tried entering McDonald's. Thankfully, he couldn't get in. Gloria and I considered calling the police. We didn't want to have to do that if he wasn't dangerous or anything though, so we decided to just wait around for a short time longer. Gloria and I finished up everything that had to be done. By the time that we were done with that, the man was still in the parking lot. We waited around for probably another 10 minutes. Then, finally, we saw the man casually walk away and leave the McDonald's premises. Gloria and I then went to the door and we both quickly ran for our cars. We were then able to leave and go home. After that shift, I never saw the man again. I only worked at the McDonald's for about another month though. I think that Gloria worked there longer, so it will be interesting to know if she ever saw the guy again. One thing for sure though is that he definitely gave me the creeps. The way he just stood there staring at me in the empty parking lot is something that I will never forget.
Right. Okay.
This story happened back in 1999. When I was a kid,
I don't care if it happened right when McDonald's first opened. McDonald's is a cluck place. You got it. You got it.
I used to love going to McDonald's. It was probably my favorite restaurant, and I loved getting the Happy Meals. They were
saying your favorite restaurant out of all restaurants is insane.
With a toy, and I thought that was really cool. So back during this time period, I was 7 years old, and I remember that I was hanging out with my cousins and sister one day. We were at my uncle's house, which was actually on the same street as my parents' house. It was cool to live close by, and we would hang out a lot. At the time, my sister was 9 years old, and my cousins were aged 5, 10, and the oldest was 14. The 14-year-old was a girl named Jane, and she would babysit all of us a lot back then. So I remember that us kids wanted to go to McDonald's. Jane was supposed to take us there, but we lived close enough to walk. It was just outside of our neighborhood and probably less than a mile away, so all of us kids left my uncle's house and started walking there. I don't really recall much about the walk there, but when we arrived at the McDonald's, we went in and got Happy Meals. Then we went to the area in the back that had the play place and started hanging out there. Us kids were going through the jungle gym tunnels and down the slides and stuff in the play place. As you know, the play place would be at the back side of the restaurant in like another room back then. Then there were a few tables in that area and many more tables in the regular dining room part of the McDonald's. From what I remember, there were not too many people at the McDonald's that day. But as us kids were in the play place, there were a few other kids that joined in who I didn't know.
Oh no.
I think it was 2 or 3 of them. After playing for a long time, I remember also noticing that there was a woman sitting in a chair in the playplace room sort of watching us.
What?
I assumed that she was a parent of one of the kids who I didn't know. The lady was the only adult in that room, and my cousin Jane was sitting in the other McDonald's dining room, not really watching us. So I remember that after a while, I went down one of the slides, and I was not that far away from the woman when I got to the bottom. She was looking at me, and I sort of had to walk by her. When I did, she said hi to me, and I stopped and said hi back to her. She called me over closer to her, and I was confused. I remember that she seemed friendly. The woman then asked me if I wanted to get some food. I was confused and said that I already did. She asked me if I wanted an ice cream sundae. I said sure. Then what the woman said next made me very suspicious. She asked me to go out to her car really quick and get some coins with her to buy the ice cream. I already found it strange that she was talking with me in the first place.
Where the cousin at? Hey, yo, cousin, what's up? Alright, bet. If I come out of here alive, I'm clocking you up on sight.
Seemed really weird. I was young, but not stupid. My parents had told me to never go in a stranger's car. I didn't really answer the woman. That's when she said, "Come on," and started to get up and sort of grab my hand. I just turned and ran away from her back to the jungle gym at that point. All the other kids were playing inside of it. When I got back in, I went up and went through some tunnels until I saw my cousins. Then I went to a window in the tunnel and looked out. The woman was still sitting there and just watching us, sort of. I happened to run into one of the other kids in the play place. I asked him if that was his mom, and he said no. Then I asked the other kid, and she also said that was not her mom. So this woman was not a parent of anybody in the play place. I thought that was kind of weird. I didn't really want to leave and go near her again. However, maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, I remember looking out again and the woman was not there. Not too long after this, Jane came into the play place room and said that it was time for us to go. So at that point, all of us kids walked out to leave. As we were going through the main part of McDonald's, I saw the woman sitting by herself at a booth. We left the McDonald's then and started heading home. For the first part of the walk back, it was normal. But I would say about halfway, I remembered that this car drove down the road really slow past us. And when it did, I was sure that I saw the same woman was driving it. It went out of sight, but like a minute or two later, I saw it drive by again. And then, a short time after that, when we were on the next road, which is quieter, it started driving slowly behind us. Jane had picked up on this as well, and I remember that she told us to walk faster. We did sort of, but with a bunch of kids that were young, it was probably hard. I remember that suddenly, Jane told us to follow her. She had turned and started going into a random person's yard. We all followed her and went around the house and behind it. She must have known the neighborhood really well and knew where she was going, because the next thing I knew, we walked through like 2 or more people's yards, and then we went back on our street. I had no idea where we were until I saw the street. Then we were able to make it back safely to my uncle's house. Jane made us all go inside, and I remember that she told her parents about the car following us. That's when I told her about the woman I saw. I'm not really sure what happened after that. I don't know if they called the police or if they called the McDonald's or anyone. I'm just really glad that I didn't agree to go with that woman.
Me too.
Looking back, it kind of gives me the creeps to think about it.
Me too. That's what's up. I'm glad. Hey, you're not like most kids. Most kids be young and stupid.
This happened just a couple of years ago. It's one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me for sure. One day, I went to McDonald's to do some work. It can be a really good place to get work done from time to time.
Really?
It's similar to a coffee shop because in many McDonald's locations, it's very quiet in the dining room most of the time.
Really?
Plus, they have free Wi-Fi, outlets, and cheap food. So I went to the McDonald's location that was closest to my apartment. It was roughly a 5-minute drive, and after I got there, I think maybe one other person was sitting down. It was sometime in the morning, and I set up my computer at a spot in the middle of the restaurant with sort of high chairs. There was an outlet right there, and I plugged my computer into it. So, over the next chunk of time, I was just sitting there and working mostly. At one point, I got up and got some coffee and then came back to my seat. Some people came and went, but I didn't really notice them much. Then, after I'd been there for probably 3 hours at least, I was going to get another coffee. However, when I got up, I then realized that I didn't have my wallet. It had been in my jacket pocket on the left side, and I had taken my jacket off and it was hanging on the seat that I was sitting on. At first, I thought that I must have dropped it where it had fallen out of the pocket. I looked around the floor though and couldn't see it anywhere. Then I looked through all my stuff and checked all my pockets. I was very confused for a few moments because I couldn't find it. Leading up to that, I'd been very focused on my computer and sort of zoned out from the rest of the McDonald's.
Hell no.
So I didn't know exactly when or how I could have lost my wallet. I just knew that I obviously had it about 2 hours prior when I got coffee. Then I looked on my phone and I noticed something that I hadn't realized before. There was a notification on my phone from about 10 minutes prior. It was from my bank and it said that my credit card purchase from McDonald's for like $1 had been approved. I hadn't used my credit card when I got the coffee. I had used my debit card. So now I was very confused. But then I had the thought that somehow somebody had stolen my wallet in this very same McDonald's and used it. To me, that made sense, but it seemed really crazy. I looked around, not thinking anyone would be dumb enough to stay around.
Now, using that shit for $1 is insane. That's kind of crazy.
Scene of the crime. But there was this one man sitting alone by himself in a booth sort of far away from me. I saw that he too was on his laptop, and he had one large drink at the table with him. No other food. Other than that, there was a man and a woman sitting who were both eating food. I thought that maybe the guy had stolen my wallet. Then he had used my credit card to get the drink. And you do not need a PIN to use the credit card, just the debit card. Obviously though, I didn't want to just go up and confront him. I had absolutely no proof of anything. It was just a coincidence.
Check the camera.
I stayed there on my computer looking at the screen, really just thinking about what I should do. I was about to cancel my credit card when I saw the man get up from his seat out of the corner of my eye. He walked over to the little screen where he ordered. When he did, he sort of went out of my sight, so I didn't see what wallet he took out or what card he...
Check the damn cameras.
But then, literally right after the guy walked away from the screen, I got a notification on my phone. It said that another purchase from McDonald's had been approved. This one was for more money. At that point, I knew that this was the guy for sure who had stolen my wallet. I couldn't believe that he had the nerve to stay in here while I was still there. It was almost like he was mocking me. He sat back down at the booth after that. At that point, I got up and I walked over to him. I went right up to where he was sitting and he looked over at me. When he did, I said, "Give me my wallet back." The guy didn't say anything and I demanded it again. I told him that I knew he had stolen it from me. Then the man started completely denying it. He claimed that I was crazy. I told him that I had proof, and I started to go on about how I saw him using my credit card and I had a charge for it. I was taking out my phone to show him, and as I was saying these things, the man put his laptop into his backpack quickly and then started getting up. He walked right past me as I was still talking.
I would have been, hey, every time you try to get up, I'm like, where you going? Hand on his shoulder, where you going? Where you going?
To him. I knew that he was going to try to leave, so I followed him. He left the McDonald's building, and I tried grabbing him, but he shoved me back and took off running. He ran to his car in the parking lot, so I quickly ran to mine. The guy left really fast, but thankfully the roads were not too busy, and I was able to see his car down the road when I left. He came up to a red light, which was kind of lucky for me, because he had been kind of far in front of me, and he was also going sort of fast. At that point, I called the police. I got the guy's license plate, and I knew the car type, so I relayed that information to the cops. And it's a good thing that I did, because after the light turned green, the guy pretty much sped away from me. He started driving faster and faster. At first, I was keeping up, but soon he started going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, and then 30 miles an hour over the speed limit. And I just wasn't willing to go that fast, so I slowed down and I let him get away, but I told the police the direction that he was going. At that point is when I realized that I forgot my laptop and everything else at the McDonald's.
Oh my God!
This was maybe 10 minutes after I had left. When I got back to the McDonald's, thankfully all my stuff was still there where I had been sitting. And also, the food that the guy had ordered with my credit card was ready and at the counter. So I went over and I picked it up and ate it. It was pretty good. A while later, the police contacted me saying that they had my wallet. Apparently, the guy had been speeding still and actually led the cops on a brief chase. He ended up giving it up though, and they recovered my wallet. Looking back, that was one of the craziest events that I've
Can you imagine doing all that for a damn credit card? God damn.
been a part of. I probably should not have followed the guy in my car. Other than that, I'm just really grateful to have my wallet back.
And you should be grateful that all your stuff was still at McDonald's. Jesus.
This has to be the worst thing that's ever happened in my time working at McDonald's. I used to work there years ago, and I had the job for just about 6 months. Most of the time that I spent there, I would just take people's orders behind the counter. I was young, and it was one of my first jobs. One day, I remember that the place was pretty busy. There were quite a few of us working, and I was kept busy taking people's orders. So, at one point, a man ordered, and I didn't even really remember him. That was until he came back up with me with his bag of food. He claimed that his french fries were cold and that he didn't want pickles on his burger, but he got them anyways. Right away, I felt like the man was going to be a problem, because I was right in the middle of taking somebody else's order and there was a line of people waiting. The fact that he just walked right up and interrupted was pretty annoying and rude, and he was also really rude the way he was talking as well. I tried to ask the guy if he could wait a minute, but he refused. He got right up in my face. I tried to get him to calm down and ask what he wanted. The man started demanding a refund and to get a new order as well. Just then, my manager Linda started walking over and interrupted. She said, "No, no, no, don't give this man a refund. We're not doing this again." Then she asked the man to leave the store and threatened to call the police. I realized then that maybe there was a bit of a history with this guy. The man instantly started cursing at Linda. She kept telling him to get out of her store. Then they went back and forth for a short time before the man finally stormed off. Then Linda announced to everybody that if he came back to call the police. I was told that the guy was supposedly banned from our McDonald's for always causing problems. I guess he was always doing things like that. Well, I continued working, but only like 5 minutes later, I saw the man. He was not inside of the McDonald's though, but outside in the parking lot. We had very large windows on the building, and there was a parking lot on both sides as well. I just noticed he was kind of walking around the parking lot. I was still taking orders though, but I thought that maybe the man would come back inside. Like a minute later though, I saw him walking, holding a really large rock. He was still outside, and he must have picked it up from the rocks that we had somewhere in our landscaping. Then he proceeded to walk over to one of the cars in the parking lot. I recognized it to be Linda's car. He then got on top of the car and stood on the roof, and then threw the rock at her windshield and smashed it. When it happened, a bunch of people looked over from the noise and saw it. The man then put his hands up in the air as if he had won something. He smiled.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine walking outside of McDonald's and you have nothing to do with McDonald's? You're not getting McDonald's. You're not thinking about McDonald's. You just passing by. You walking, right? You just walking right past McDonald's, not thinking nothing of it. And you see somebody on top of a car with a big ass rock smash the windshield. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! And then they say to themselves, "See, that's that punk shit I'm talking about at McDonald's." Oh my God. Oh shit. Oh my God. That would be hilarious. Oh shit. You just minding your own business. You outside. You just see that.
I started laughing and then jumped down and walked away. I took my phone out and called the police. Meanwhile, a few moments later, Linda came running out and saw what happened. She ran out of the store to her car. A short time later, the cops arrived and questioned a bunch of people, as well as looked around for the man. He was picked up pretty fast, not that far away. When I got off of work like an hour later, I know that Linda was still outside by her car talking to the police. I felt bad for her, but hopefully she had car insurance that would cover that. I didn't work at McDonald's for that long, but long enough to witness that crazy scene.
Man.
I went to McDonald's at night not too long ago. I go there all the time, and usually late at night. You see, I work at Walmart, and I typically get off of work at like 11 p.m. or so. I live in an apartment nearby with my roommate, and it's less than a mile away. I often walk to and from work, and right on the way back is a McDonald's. They're open 24 hours, so I go there a lot after work. One night, I left work at Walmart and started heading home. I was walking back. However, as I passed by the McDonald's, I realized how hungry I was. So I walked inside and then ordered some food on the
So you left one club place to go to another club place. Okay.
Menu. As I was doing that, a guy randomly walked up to me. Now, we were literally the only two people in the McDonald's that were not employees, and this guy had entered after me. I looked over at him. He was kind of short, but was wearing a winter hat and jacket. The guy told me that he had followed me from Walmart. I was confused. Before I said anything, though, the guy laughed a little and then walked away from me. I finished ordering, and then I went and I sat down to wait for my order, far away from the other guy. We both just sat there inside of the McDonald's on opposite ends. A few minutes later, my order was done, and I went up and got it. Then I walked outside of the McDonald's. I had been hoping that the man would not follow me out, but he did. After I started walking on the sidewalk, I heard the guy following me. I had no clue why this random guy would be following me. It was pretty much a straight walk back to my apartment building, though, so I kept going, with the guy maybe 30 feet back. I thought about running for it or stopping and confronting the guy, but I did neither at first. When I had made it to where I could see my building in the distance, I thought I heard the man getting closer. At that point, I couldn't take it anymore, and I just started running. But when I did, I heard the man yell something at me. He said, "Go ahead and run. I know where you live."
Oh no!
This really freaked me out. I kept running though. Maybe he was just trying to scare me. I sprinted all the way back to my apartment complex, and then I got into the building and went inside. The man did not catch me or anything, and I wasn't sure where he was at that point because I didn't see him, and I didn't hear him either. Then I quickly went to my apartment and made it inside. I locked the door behind me and finally stopped to catch my breath. I felt safe now, and my roommate was already sleeping by this time. Maybe 5 minutes later, though, I heard a knock at my apartment door. I knew it was the guy who had been following me. He really did know where I lived. I walked over to the door, and as I did, I heard him laughing from the other side. I looked through the peephole, and he was standing there, seeming very amused. Then he turned and walked away. After that, he did not come back. I still wonder why the guy did that to me. Was he just joking around? But how did he know where I lived? It was very weird.
Because you're careless in the life decisions that you make. That's all I'm saying. And you working at Walmart, McDonald's, it's all the same. You know, you get clucked up. You work in a clucked up situation. I mean, you work in a clucked up job, and then you go to a clucked up place where you live in a clucked up place. Oh man, Jesus. All right, that man. This is why I just be minding my business, and I don't be paying attention. I pay attention when I'm outside, but then I don't be paying attention. You know. One day, I don't know. Should I make a video, like a social experiment, of like going to McDonald's and working? Like, I don't know. I'm damn sure not gonna eat the food. But I'm just saying, like, should I just go to McDonald's, like a random McDonald's, and just experience, like, just being there, just to see the cluck shit that be going on. Oh my God, I'll probably laugh my ass off. Keep it cool, keep it classy, and I love you. Stay happy, my family.